Welcome, everybody. It is 8 o'clock on Thursday night. That means it's time for another episode of the best show no one is watching, the Get Off My Lawn podcast. Glad to have you with us. Should be a fun conversation tonight, although I'm finding out since I sent some invites out last minute, a lot of people aren't able to join that wanted to. So hopefully they watch this and like the conversation, and they'll see fit to share it. Speaking of which, if you're out there watching, listening, what have you, please mash that share button. Get this out to everybody. Help us grow the best show that no one's watching and make it the best show that everyone's watching. That'd be awesome. If you're not subscribed on YouTube, go ahead and do that. If you're watching on Facebook, please like the page that you're watching that on if you have not already. And either way, make sure you're just sharing it. Hit that like button. Let the algorithms know that you like what we're doing. That'd be awesome. So a couple things I want to get through, like always, before we bring in our panel here. First and foremost, so I don't forget, let's do this right now. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast belong to the individual expressing them and did not reflect the views of any of our sponsors. We are not offering any legal or medical advice. We're not doctors. We're not lawyers. We're just some people that like to spout off and share our thoughts on the internet. So take our word for what it's worth. And plan accordingly. Also, we are a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network, so go check out sdrn.us to see all the cool podcasts and shows that are over there on Self-Defense Radio Network. Very, very proud to be included in that list. There are a ton of great shows over there, gun-related, 2A related, freedom-related. Go check them out. Cool stuff. Don't do it right now. Wait a little bit. Wait till this is over. Then go check it out and just listen and watch all of those over there. So, all right. I think we're going to have some fun tonight. We're going to bring some people in here, and we'll say hey to everybody. So, first and foremost, we will bring in our fully semi-official co-host. Defense Dad is in the house. How are things in the capital city, sir?
Oh, not too bad. Hot and humid, but other than that, pretty good.
Yeah. Kind of that way up here, too. By capital city, I don't mean Washington, D.C. I mean Lincoln, Nebraska. So, all right. Also coming to us, our neighbor to the north, we've got from sunny Sioux Falls, coming to us live from the falls themselves, Paul Lathrop, Deputy Director of New Media for Second Amendment Foundation. How are you, sir?
Doing great. Thanks for having me come along tonight, man. I appreciate the invite.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for joining us. And then last but not least, so far, we may get a few more people that hop in, but for now, we'll just have the four amigos here instead of the three amigos. So we've got none other than Gun Websites himself. If you have been around any kind of internet stuff that involves guns and such and 2A stuff, you probably know who G-Webs is, but if not, then you get to be exposed a little bit tonight to some of what he's doing and what he has to say too. So, G-Webs, how are you?
Good. Thanks for the invite.
You bet.
Thanks for the cool intro like that.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. Well, I mean, a lot of us that are on here doing our thing, I'm definitely one of them. Wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for you and some of the groundwork that you laid for us. So very, very grateful. Thanks for making it possible for me to be here. So it's a long, circuitous route, but you are indirectly responsible for this right here. So, all right.
Do we need to talk to a lawyer or apologize for any of this?
Yeah, you should probably apologize, not to me, to everybody else. I don't think anybody's going to sue you for it. I hope not. Gosh. With that disclaimer, we're fine. Nobody should want to sue us. We should be good. So real quick here, let's see. Who do we have out there watching so far? If you're out there, drop those live comments or drop those comments in the live chat, especially if you're watching live. We want to know that you're out there. If you're on YouTube, we cannot see you unless you comment. I know some of you like to just hang out there and not make comments. You just like to watch the show live if you can and just kind of lurk from the shadows, and that's fine. You know who I'm talking about down there in Omaha. I know you're down there. That's cool. But I know there's others out there too. For those of you commenting, we get to interact with you, see your comments, maybe put some stuff up on the screen. Let's see, I don't know if there's any comments right now. There we go. There's a comment right there. It's not really gun related, but we can put stuff right up on the screen. Rich White said the ruling in West Virginia versus EPA may help fix some of the issues. They're talking about gas prices. So we'll see how that
can still help guns. I can explain if you want me to.
You know what? I'm going to give you a chance to. Don't let me forget. We'll get there. So anyway, let's see. So I've got Kingpin's out there, Rich White's out there, Sandhill Sweetheart's out there, and right across the room from me here in the producer's chair, Polite Society podcast out there and in here, gun websites, Defense Dad, both out there and in here. Patrick Collins is on Facebook, Kevin Sona is on YouTube, G23, I see you out there. The Gun Foodie is here. Well, gosh, Patrick Collins and the Gun Foodie are both signed in. That's kind of cool. Do you have to do that on
multitasking, man?
Right? It's like running 2 turntables and a microphone. He's just where it's at. So, sorry, that was kind of a sublime joke there.
Get his lawnmower in there too.
I'm here all week. All right, so let's just kind of jump into this. You guys know how I like to do this. I don't want to be the host where you have to wait and raise your hand to speak or anything like that. We're just 4 guys sitting around a campfire, table, whatever, just having a conversation. So there's a huge difference out there, I think, and I've said this many times here, but I don't always go into it at length and explain what I mean when I say that there are 2 distinct circles that we tend to deal with, at least that of the people that come through as guests on my show. There are the people that are the gun people and the people that are the 2A people. And I've got friends in both circles, but I say they are 2 distinctly different circles. Some of them overlap. Some people have a foot in both, but I think I kind of have a foot in both. But for the most part, a lot of the gun people tend to just kind of stick to doing the gun stuff and not do as much of the Pro-2A stuff, at least not online. And then vice versa. A lot of the Pro-2A people stick to kind of doing that stuff and don't do as much stuff as far as guns and reviews and shooting videos and things like that. And so that's why I say that it is possible. You can be pro-gun and not be pro-2A. You can be pro-2A and I don't think you can, well, I don't think you can be not pro-gun, but you can be pro-2A and not be a gun person. You can be pro-gun and not be a 2A person. That's probably the best way to say that. Although I do know a lot of people that claim to be pro-gun that are definitely anti-2A, and they always say 2 things. All of them have the same 2 things in common when they say this. They say, number 1, I support the Second Amendment, but, which is code for actually, no, I don't. I'm about to refute what I just said. And number 2, they always say, I'm a gun owner myself. Well, sure, I'm sure Joe Biden is a gun owner. He's got that double barrel shotgun. He bought that for Jill so she can go out and illegally fire it into the air. But he's definitely not. I don't think he's even pro-gun. A lot you can own guns and not be pro-gun. I drive a car. I'm not a car guy, so I'm not against driving cars. But you know, there's a lot of nuance to it too. So I kind of want to just dig into all of that. What it means to be pro-gun, what it means to be pro-2A, what it means to be an advocate or an activist on any of those. So it's, you know, some people are like I said, kind of a little bit of both. G-Webs, that's why I invited you in here tonight, because you tend to be as much both as just about everybody I know. Clover's another great one, but he does a show this time of night too on Thursdays. So I didn't extend him an invite because I wouldn't want him to stop doing his to join us.
Just to interrupt you, he hasn't done that show in like a year, so you could probably
really.
Oh, yeah.
Clover, where are you? We need your butt in here.
Maybe 2 years. It's been a while
know
since
that.
he's on the show.
Cool.
Well,
No,
if you're doing your show, you wouldn't know, but yeah.
Hang on, I'll get Clover in here. 22 long rifle. Okay, he'll be in here a little bit.
There you go. We just need to shake some lucky charms. He'll show up. So no, but you're one of the earliest guys that I've seen that is, you're both pro gun. You do a lot of gun stuff, or at least you kind of used to. And then you also do a lot of promoting the Second Amendment and doing that kind of stuff. And both out, I shouldn't say in front of the camera, because I mean, I never see you. You don't put yourself in front of the camera, but you turn your camera on and make videos and stuff. But then at the same time, you do a lot of work that we never get to see, just behind the scenes, connecting people and going to rallies and things like that too. So I'm just going to let you kind of lead things off, and then we'll just make this kind of just a roundtable discussion here. But when you hear pro gun and Pro-2A, do you separate those in your mind? Are they all the same? How do you treat that?
That's good. It's a good question. If you would have asked me in 2010 or 2005, I would have had different questions, right? Mm-hmm. So you're asking me in 2022. They're two different things. I think they're advanced and intermediate or whatever. Like, you can be okay with guns, and then you can own guns, and then you can care about the rights. They're not, what's the word, mutually exclusive. Mm-hmm. But right. They're not necessarily, like you were saying, you can be in one circle or the other, and some people are in both. But I don't think there's an obligation, but I think it's easier and easier to understand it. I think one of the problems is nobody cared about that stuff before, because if there wasn't a challenge to your right to own a thing, why would you care about your right to own the thing? It was not in question, right? That's been more of an issue since the 80s, 90s, like that pressure has been on. So now that we're living through that, now there's and then you look at the people who are activists, that wasn't as much a role. There just was literally fewer of them. Now there's hundreds. Right. So.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the, I don't know if I want to say the best things, definitely one of the silver linings that came from COVID and just how stupid the world got. And the run that we had on guns and ammo, in 2020, 2021, was that people found out, number one, they found out it is not easier to get this thing than my library card. Number two, they found out that I can't buy this because that's a stupid reason why I can't take that home today. I just bought this thing and now somebody wants to take it away from me. I bought it because there's riots and now they don't want me to even have the thing. What do they want to just hang me out to dry and let people burn down my house? People kind of had their eyes open a little bit, that again had their heads in the sand, because that was never challenged until recently.
I'm just going to throw this aspect because that gets often brought up, but think about, there's 360 million in the country. I've heard all kinds of numbers. I don't know what you guys pick for your numbers of how many gun owners there are or how many active gun owners there are. Mm-hmm. But I heard some numbers from NSSF that it's 100 million and 50 million. So 50 million active gun owners, if these numbers are correct and I'm remembering correctly, just to give us a gauge, right? 360 million people in the country. However many millions of people decided to, and I'll have a discussion on whether or not that's accurate, but these new 4473s that happened in the last couple of years, most people suggest that's because of the stress and everything. Whatever the case, it doesn't even matter, because that's if they were people that bought guns or if they're just people that transferred guns around, which they could easily be. Right. Either way, new people became in possession of firearms, and that means their brothers and sisters, their parents, their people at work, church, school, civic organizations. Conversations came up and guns became more normal. People said to them, to their sister or their friend at the hairdresser or the guy, when they're buying their cowboy boots or whatever, oh, I'm thinking about getting a gun. Think about all those conversations that happened. The actual people that followed through are like 1 out of 100 of the people that thought about it. And think about the consequences. All those people that had it in their we always think about the people that are anti. Most people are on the fence. They could care less one way or the other about guns, unless they're bothering them. They care less about guns, right? Mm-hmm. Last couple of years, that's been on the forefront. And people who could care less one way or the other are watching gun owners be victimized, marginalized, accused. They're having their longtime gun owning friends say, look at this, see what we're talking about? And their new gun owning friends going, wow, not just all the stuff you said, but also I made a decision to buy a firearm and now I'm being marginalized. My decision puts me in a class of people that somehow less now. And there's friendships that are different because of that decision. And then their parents, their brothers and sisters, their people at work, school, and church are all seeing that consequence. So I think there's a lot of possibility here, a lot of potential, but a lot of opportunity here. So I think activists happen when people become gun owners and then they become aware, or they're aware of gun owners and they become aware, right? So we got a ton of activists coming out of here, potentially.
I think so too. I think we're going to see that pick up as more and more people learn how to use their social media for more than just watching funny TikToks or whatever is the case too. But yeah, I mean, that was just the I don't know anything else to call it, just the stupidity between COVID and George Floyd and all the other riots and whatnot. Everything just kind of turned into the perfect storm. And by perfect storm, I mean sucked to be us. Those of us that didn't have a stock of ammo already set in, or wanted to buy that firearm that all of a sudden went up half again more in price or whatnot. It sucked to be us, but the awareness, that was good. And I'm not going to try and justify it, and say it's worth paying $1,200 for an $800 rifle or anything like that. I'm just saying that the awareness that came out of it, that was a good thing. More people are aware now that not only are guns not evil, that things aren't evil. People do good things or evil things with things, but the thing itself has no malevolent or benevolent characteristics to it. It's just a thing. It's a tool, right? And so more and more people, I think, realize that now than ever. I think that, and we're not going to go into conspiracy theories, but I think that whenever the news gets a chance to, just plaster another grocery store, church, school, whatever murderer that went in and was able to use the tool in a bad way to kill a lot of people in a short amount of time, that I think even people now are starting to get fed up with even that. I know that just kind of the general consensus around my workplace, which is not other gun people, is, gosh, there's another public shooting. Kind of getting tired of hearing about it though. Let's move on and talk about something else, something happier or whatever. Like, everybody I think that I know is kind of really getting over it, to where, number one, people are getting numb to it. So when the next public murder attempt or successful murder, whatever happens, then, I mean, people are kind of getting a little bit numb to it. But at the same time, we're tired of hearing the same old excuses time after time after time of, well, if we just had this, if we could just take away that, if we have that in place in the places that these are happening and it's not working. So tell me another one. I think that, as a rule, I think a big portion of the general public is not only getting fed up, they're starting to get educated. And a lot of that comes back from what you said earlier, G, is just the conversations being had, or people are finding out firsthand. Like the people that Defense Dad told me about back a couple years ago in the Shield store there in Lincoln, where, you had to stand in line all day to buy that one thing. And then come to find out, depending on what it was, you couldn't even take it home that day, or whatever is the case. People are finding out it's not that cool. I don't know how do I say this? They're finding out that everything's not all champagne and roses being a gun owner, the way that they got told that it was. They keep saying on the news how the gun lobby is the most powerful force in America, and if that was the case, we wouldn't have any gun laws. We wouldn't have an NFA or anything else. That'd all be gone if we had that kind of power. So, and I like to, just to shout out to Rebecca Schmoy down in Kansas, who is running for state legislature. I forget the district. Is it 59?
58, I think.
District 58. Well, so double check, but if you're in that district in Kansas, make sure you vote for Rebecca for state legislature. But she likes to point out the fact that the very fact that the anti-gun crowd will go out in public or on TV or on social media and blame all of the issues on the gun owners, and they feel safe enough to do it without any kind of retaliation. The very fact that they're willing to say it in public out loud negates the fact that they believe it. If they really believed that the gun owners were, the violent, evil ones, they wouldn't say that out in public, because they'd be too afraid that the gun owners would shoot them.
Well, and I need to make an admission for the first time in recent memory. I'm wrong. You were right, John. She's District 59.
Well, I know that you were the one that brought it up last time, and you knew, or you had it searched it or something when we talked about her here a week or two ago. So anyway, the biggest thing is, yeah, okay. So District 59, and G did put the link out there in the YouTube chat, so you can go find Rebecca Schmoy's campaign and vote for her if you live in that district, or help her if you don't. We need to send good people into our state legislatures, and she's good people. She's not going to compromise on any of the things that people's, the values that she has. I know that legislation is a lot of give and take and quid pro quo, and it's messy, and it's not that simple. But she gets it. She's one of the good ones, and she's been a guest here. You guys have seen her here before. So let's see here. So anyway, yeah, let's kind of get back to the topic at hand here. But just the fact.
Can I hit on that car thing, or can I hit on something with cars and movies? So I think that one of the deals is with people being more familiar, at least paying attention, than bringing it to the topic of conversation so often, and then so many people being aware of guns. So you buy a gun, you like you just said about the laws and the purchasing process and all that could be eye-opening. But whenever you purchase a firearm, we all know that it's not magic. It takes some amount of skill set and practice just to figure it out and get comfortable with it and then get good with it. Some people are prodigies, but most everybody has some apprehension, some learning curve, right? Mm-hmm. So again, all those brothers, sisters, moms, dads, cousins, uncles that they're having conversations with, oh, I went to the range. Here's my sloppy target. And it took me 6.5 hours to get comfortable with the thing. And, it's not like the movies. And now you're watching a movie with somebody or with their peer group or their friends. Oh, this is fake. This is completely fake. Right. So what I was going to say is, in movies, how familiar are we with like cars that explode? Somebody shoots at a car and it explodes. Somebody slams a door real hard and it explodes. Well, we all drive cars, and we all have this like disconnect or understanding that what they do with cars in the movies is super fake. Cars don't accelerate, people don't jump out of them, things don't happen on the highway like in the movies. Like when somebody stops, the cars don't go flipping down the road. All these extreme things that happen in the movies. People didn't have much realistic stuff to put with their guns, so they see these gun things in movies. I suspect a bunch of people had no idea where guns are really at. Now we got a whole bunch of new people paying attention or being involved with guns, sharing their experiences with guns. It's going to be a lot more where people are going to be able to draw an actual line of distinction between fantasy and reality. And when a politician gets up and says things that are effectively fantasy, it's going to fall on deaf ears. It's going to fall on educated ears. It's going to fall on ears that say, wait a minute, who are you trying to con with this, right? Like, where are you saying such blather when I know the facts? And now I think that stuff's going to, they're not doing anything new. They're doing very, very, very few new things. So I think that strategy of dusting off old stuff that's failed or sometimes succeeded in the past, I think that's going to backfire on them big time. And I think it's also an indication that they didn't have any time to prepare for this. They're literally just pulling old dusty stuff out that they've renamed, put new dates on it, right, and sticking it out here. It's an indication that they're just looking for any distraction, anything that'll work quickly.
And let me ask you this one too, G, because you've got contacts all across the nation here. So if anybody on this panel has their finger on the pulse of general America, you'd probably be the one. When President Sloppy Joe comes out and says again and again and again, even the fact checkers have gotten him on this one time and again, when he says, when the Second Amendment was passed, you couldn't own a cannon. So do people understand that that's complete and total BS?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I can imagine maybe the oldest of elderly, the most disinterested or the most oblivious little kids, but everybody else immediately knows that's wrong from school, or is being told by memes and other pop culture that that's crazy wrong. Plus, right, this isn't a president who's got everyone's respect and his word is gospel in every, the immigration and the border and overseas in economy and fuel. I mean, is there anything that people are like, I take what this guy's talking about? If anything, him going on and on about this stuff is just turning their foundations to rubber. Maybe it's because they know that their foundations are over, that the things that they've kept, which is ignorance and just an unawareness, maybe they know that that's gone and they just might as well wear it out, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I keep saying time and time again, and I have, as yet, nothing's changed my mind on this. They're going to push him out on January 22nd next year. I mean, they're already undermining him. Even his own party is trying to distance from him a little bit. So as soon as it's time to get him out of there, whether it's 25th Amendment or whatever means they use, or they just convince him to resign, whatever's the case, we're going to have President Kamala late January next year, so that, just enough time has gone by that she doesn't have to count this as a term. That's what I keep saying. They're trying to get him through until it's 2 years plus 1 day. And then she can take over, doesn't have to count it as a term, and she can run for re-election twice.
This is where I wish I had a button that could play a nervous cackle really loud.
Thank you for not having said button. She can run all she wants. She can.
Well, true.
This is Biden's 5th time he ran for president.
Yeah,
was this past election. She can run all she wants.
But you understand what I'm saying, though.
Yeah, she in her mind, she thinks she'll win an election,
and she
won't. She
She
never even polled in her own party when the last. She never polled above the single digits.
She was the
among
first
Democrats
of the quote unquote serious candidates. She was the first one to drop out of the primary, which makes you wonder now. Did she drop out so early just because she knew she was going to be in the front running for the black female? There wasn't a lot of those on that stage in the early primary debates. So, but anyway, let's go back to guns and 2A and stuff here. Defense Dad, you're kind of the opposite of kind of how I am. I do a lot more Pro-2A stuff online lately. Not as much gun stuff, just because life and time and everything else don't allow me to do even as the little bit that I used to do. And you're more of if there's anybody on the panel who's more of a gun guy than a 2A guy, you're going to be him. So would you say that's kind of true, or do you lean more towards the gun stuff than the 2A advocacy stuff right now?
I, in my personal life, in real life, more towards the advocacy. My channel's not about that. I don't follow politics as closely as most people do. Other people can do a better job. I keep that off my site. But as far as talking about it with my family and people I come across in the day-to-day basis, a lot of them probably wish I'd just shut up. And really and truly, now I'm not near on the advocate level as the three of you guys, but in real life, I'm more so than I appear on my channel. My channel I started for new gun owners, helping them do gear and learn how to save money. The reason I don't follow the politics as closely is, quite honestly, I don't want to be in a bad mood all the time. I about once every couple months, I just get in a foul mood and I have to stop watching the news for a week or so, and because otherwise I'm just always pissed off.
Yeah.
And it's not like in Marvel Comics where that keeps me from being the Hulk. It just makes me pissed off.
No, I totally understand that feeling completely. And I'm sure that Paul and G-Webs both understand how you feel too after a day of being on social media, especially if you've been in discussions, not arguments, but just discussions with people who, just refuse to even try to see things from a different point of view than their own. I mean, yeah, it'll wear you down. Even sometimes I catch myself and I'm like, why am I so crabby? Because I was online today and I had a conversation with somebody over a post or whatnot, and it just put me in a sour mood for the rest of the day. And those are the times that I know I need to put the phone down and recollect my thoughts and watch a show with my girl and just stop thinking about the world for a little while. And it does wonders to just get my head out of the headspace of the, I shouldn't say picking fights, but just being in those discussions that can be quite passionate and heated at times.
Yep.
Which is kind of a fun way of saying picking a fight.
Well, like just for example, I just went back and visited my family, and I would say the overwhelming majority of my family is pro-gun, but not pro-2A. And honestly, until about 5 years ago, I could have given a crap less. I got into it late in life as far as realizing how important the Second Amendment is.
Mhm.
So I haven't been doing it as long as you guys have.
But that's cool too, though. I mean, we need new blood all the time. We need to have new people coming in, and as people discover what we're doing, and Lord willing, as people discover this show, then hopefully we'll get more and more people all the time who want to come in and sit in on the panel and weigh in and give their thoughts and ask questions and whatnot. And it's kind of fun over the years to just kind of see how the panel changes and grows and shrinks and evolves over the course of time with people able to come in and bring that fresh perspective, which is why I try to bring in a few fresh faces or fresh voices from week to week too, so it's not always the same echo chamber always saying the same things week in and week out here. Sometimes I'm not as successful, and it still happens, but you guys know that I hate being thought of as an echo chamber in here. So Paul, you've been I know I've heard you say before, I don't know if it was ever on camera or not, but or at least on the air, but I mean, I've heard you say before too, you're not really as much of a gun guy as you are a 2A guy.
No,
so when you
got
say
into it because of gun rights is why I got into what I do.
Okay. So when you say that you're not a gun guy, I mean, what do you mean by that specifically? It's not that you are against guns or you don't have a lot of fun shooting them.
No, not at all. Not at all. When I very first started a little over 10 years ago, 10 years, 4 months, but who's counting? When I very first started podcasting, I owned a total of 1 firearm, and that was a Taurus Judge. Don't hate me. Don't own it anymore. Now I'm one of these people who I've got to go check the list to see how many guns I have. That still doesn't make me a gun guy. I know the difference between a hammer fire, a striker fire, and those things, but when it comes to gas impingement versus other types of actions for semi-automatic rifles, it's all Greek to me. It either works for me or it doesn't. I really could care less about the mechanics of it. And then I'm deeply passionate about the rights, but I'm a gun guy only as far as what can they do for me and how best can I utilize them. That's as far as my gun guy goes.
Right. And now I fancy myself both. Now, if you say to be a gun guy, I've got to own, lots and lots and lots of guns, then I'm not one. But if I could make a living working in a gun store all day, selling guns to people, and then spend, my off time doing advocacy things and going to rallies and doing NFOA stuff and what have you, and doing shows like this one, I mean, life would be perfect because I'd get to do everything I love to do, all day long and all evening too, or at least a couple nights a week. So that's why I think that I'm kind of an anomaly, where if somebody wants to sit down and have the discussion about, whether that, guns with say a gun with a grip safety is detrimental or it's a good thing or what have you, or argue about whether external safety levers are good or bad, whatnot. I'm down with that. I'm willing to have that discussion. If you want to talk about the latest and greatest that, was just on the cover of Combat Handguns magazine or what have you, I will, pull my issue out and we'll have that discussion. At the same time, you guys all know that I'm very passionate too about the rights of people to own, to keep and bear their firearms. And so I'm probably definitely way more vocal on the advocacy part than I am on the part of just being kind of a nut about guns or new ammo or whatnot. But I'm both. If I had a chance to go out and try every bolt action 270 and every 270 load, as long as I'm not required to write an article or a paper on it afterwards, I mean, that would be perfect. That'd be a great day or a great week or whatever for me. Just getting to go shoot the guns and see what makes them different, take them apart, clean them, whatever. Love doing that stuff. So I know I'm not the only one. I know that doesn't necessarily make me unique, but it just seems like there are a ton of people out there who really don't overlap. And part of what I wanted to talk about tonight too is just, is there a way to get more people to overlap? I don't want to make people do anything, but I mean, is there a way to encourage the overlapping? And is that the best thing? Do we want to have two separate camps where some people are more concerned about making sure that, that the right guns get put in the right people's hands and whatnot? And do we need a designated camp full of people making sure that we retain the right to keep and bear these things? Or would it be better if everybody, if the lines got blurry and everybody was, had a dipped a toe into both waters? What do you guys think on that?
Well, I'm going to say I appreciate everybody in the Second Amendment community. I do not necessarily appreciate everybody in the gun community. All you got to do is go watch YouTube for about 5 minutes because it with autoplay on, because eventually it'll come up with some person, I will not even classify them as male, handing a 700 Win Mag to their girlfriend who's just barely dressed, saying, "Here, honey, shoot this."
Right. Where she arches her back just to hold it up and knocks herself back on her butt.
And then, oh, ho, ho, ha, ha, isn't that so funny?
Right.
Those people hurt us. They get tons of views, but they hurt us. And you'll meet them. Everybody, if you go to your local range, you will meet these people. Well, it's an attitude of, I've got mine, so now it just doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And they're also the same ones that say, well, I can still shoot my 45 and hit a target 250 yards away. Baloney. Was that external? I'm sorry. They're the braggarts, and I've got mine, so to hell with you. Quite often, these are the people that vote blue. Let's put it that way. If you're passionate about gun rights, I'll help you all I can. Right, bring you along, do everything I can to make you bigger, to make you better, to help do whatever I can for you. Gun guys, maybe, but I've got to get to know you first.
Sure. Well, and I think we've all been in a gun store, if not multiple gun stores that had that person that, they don't want to listen to you talk. They don't want to listen to what you have to say. They already know what you need.
Yep.
And yeah, a lot of YouTubers are like that too. But at the same time, I'm going to come back and say that you're not wrong with anything that you just said about those people. But at the same time, even those guys help normalize guns. With those millions of views they get, they are normalizing shooting. Now, they're not normalizing being nice to people, and they're not normalizing shooting things correctly by any means. But, even the one that a lot of people love to hate on, that Defense Dad's daughter just loves the heck out of, if you can make a living blowing stuff up by shooting it on YouTube, then power to you. But those people are still bringing people in. Hickok may not have a lot of bad stuff to say about any gun that Bud's gun shop sends him, but people are still, millions of people are watching every video that he puts out. And he is bringing people into the fold just by doing those videos and getting all those views. So there's still a place for all these guys. We just need to make sure that we encourage people to not stop there. Don't just watch Hickok. Don't just watch Matt at Demolition Ranch. Don't just watch Mr. I was a jerk to my girlfriend. Isn't this funny? Keep going. Dig in, learn a little bit, and then learn why we're so passionate about not only our right and your right to keep and bear these items, but we're also equally passionate about the right of those people to make those stupid videos and put them up on the interwebs. You know, everything spills over, and I've never found another community besides the gun community who is adamant about not only the thing that we care about, or that we talk about the most online, which is guns or the rights of people to own them, but I don't know anybody, especially in the 2A side. Again, the gun side, you're right, kind of, it depends on the person. It's a case-by-case basis. But I don't know any 2A person who's not just will not fight tooth and nail for your right to say that people shouldn't own guns.
Oh yeah.
Or, I mean, it's just, I don't agree with you, but I'm willing to dig in and fight for your right to say things that I don't agree with.
Yeah, the old saying goes, I hate what you're saying, but I'll fight to the death for your right to say it.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm cavalier enough to say I'll fight to the death. I'd like to believe so, but hopefully I never have to find out. But I totally understand and I agree with it. So yeah, I try to check myself before, at least especially when I'm online live, before I go so far as to say things like, I'm willing to die in a pile of hot brass or something like that. I hope I never have to find out, because I don't want to die that way. So, right. But I refuse to die on my knees. So there's that. But anyway, puppy dog, you getting antsy? You didn't even want to chew up your rawhide chew that I gave you, huh? All right. Yes, for those of you that want to get upset, yes, I said rawhide. My dog chews it up. She's fine. I know that's a source of contention sometimes for people with dogs. This dog will chew up plastic and aluminum and everything else. She knows what's on the inside of a tennis ball, and she thinks it's delicious. So I don't think rawhide's going to hurt her a bit. She swallowed rocks before and got those out okay. Blitz, I see you out there, dude. I will, as soon as there it comes. Blitz wants to say that he's willing to die on the hill and get me to wear the fedora on the podcast. If that's all we wanted, that's fine. I could go grab it right now. But Blitz actually wants me to dress up like I do when we're DJing dances, and that's full on with the tie and the vest and everything. And gosh, I just don't want to get that dressed up and out pretty everybody else on my panel, Blitz. I'm sorry, but it's already hard work being the best looking guy on my show. But still, what defense, Dad? You're the best looking guy on my show most of the time. What, you're the one that says it's hard work. Anyway,
of the four of us here right now, I think G-Webs has got it, because none of the other three of us are going to win any beauty contests anytime soon.
That's true. G-Webs and G-Webs is a not a bad looking dude. I mean, I don't swing that way, but I'm just saying he's not a hideous fellow if you've ever met him in person. So
going back to the idea of having the people that are pro-gun and the people that are pro-2A, and if it's some sort of ambition to have a mix or anything.
Yeah.
I think, again, going back to just the numbers, we got 360 million people. If there are 100 million gun owners and 50 million active gun owners, and I just heard this number from someone who got it from NSSF, but I'm not sure how they came up with it. I don't know how NSSF would even know. Maybe some conglomeration of range use versus purchases, maybe. I have no idea. Maybe quizzes to gun shops. I have no idea. Maybe range. I don't know how they would figure that out. But however many gun owners there are, we're never going to all walk in lockstep. We can't agree on nothing, right? Hardly anything, right?
No, you're right. We can't. I keep lamenting that fact.
But we have a bunch of stuff that we like Leave Us Alone, and I don't care what y'all are doing for the most part, right? Like, we all can be okay with, most everything. It's just when we get into the details or whatever is when we start to bicker about our preferences and stuff. So I think the reason why I'm just long-windedly saying, I don't think that by having two camps, that is all we got. That's just two characteristics of gun ownership. And the thing I guess I was going to get at is you hit on it. Nobody stays anything their whole life. You're young and you're ambitious and you're interested and you don't have any experience, and then you start to gain experience, and then you start to get opinions, and then you start to, at some point, you start to open your ears, and then you start to take your experience mixed with what you're hearing from other people, and then you have real compound experience, and then you start to open your mind up even more to figure out, well, just because it worked for me doesn't mean that's the only way it can work, right? I know 6 other people that did it a different way. So now you know that there's 4 different ways that can work, and probably 2 of those ways are a good idea for some people, right? So you start to get experience, and we all change our opinions and our stuff. So let the culture, let the community do that too. So some of us, and this is the weird part, Paul was just talking about getting into guns later in life, I guess. Like, I'm pretty sure from talking to John, you've been shooting your whole life, and I've been shooting my whole life. I don't know what it's like to not have a gun. There's kids that don't know what it's like to not have a smartphone. Like, their entire life, they've had a smartphone to fiddle with. When their parents, like, what did our parents do? They told us to shut up. Like, they didn't give us anything. Nowadays,
Go outside and play.
Yeah, go outside. Exactly. Leave us alone. Go away. And then we'd have to go figure out, something to do. And we didn't go online and go, oh, that's what we're supposed to do. We all came up with our own weird ideas of things to do, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe some kid moved around. Army kids, right? Kids that work for the state or something, like people that move around. Those kids would often have like ideas of stuff that we never came up with, right? But anyway, we had very slow communications. I'm just getting at the fact that there's a lot of gun owners. We got a lot of things. I was just saying that some of us are older people that are new gun owners. Does that make sense? Some of us are 18 years old and have more experience with guns than 50-year-old people, right? So the gun ownership can be an interesting thing where it's more than a hobby. It's a right. It's a fundamental right thing that keeps us together. So anyway, I just want to say, I don't think you have to put those in 2 different camps as much as just at some point you become a gun owner first. I think everybody becomes a gun owner, at least thinks about being a gun owner first. And then you think about the rights. And once you click, then you become a Second Amendment activist. And I think that click might be you lived in 94 and you got pissed, or you lived at some other challenge to our rights and you got pissed and you became an activist for a while. And then everybody goes away and has apathy. And I think the organizations we're dealing with have existed through years and decades, really, of waves of apathy and aggression, and then nothing. Like, there was decades of everybody leaving each other alone for the most part, little skirmishes in the states and stuff. And then the wave of concealed carry and constitutional carry. Right. And the number of organizations that have adapted since, well, let's just say 2015, but really since, 2000 really, since the internet brought along a spectrum of pro-rights organizations that have, a focus on Second Amendment. Mm-hmm. And in 2015, after Sandy Hook and all of that, and again, people being persecuted for their property, we had a whole nother wave of organizations come to life. So now someone who comes in as a Second Amendment activist or a gun owner and says, I want to protect my rights. Well, let's get a big, thick book, because you got a lot of choices, starting with your local organizations and state level organizations there on your area of interest, or maybe something that you care about, your region, and then national level organizations that either lobby or care about activism or take people to court, right? There's all different things. So people have this buffet and this menu, right? And they know that when they need it, they can call on it. So I think the future is some kind of Uber activism, where when we need it, we make a phone call and people show up, and right. And then when they don't need them anymore, everybody goes back to living their lives. But if we have the capacity and the capability of being activists, boom, we're done. Like, everybody, just like we can shoot handguns when we need to. You don't have to own one. You don't have to like them.
Right.
But we all needed to shoot a handgun for some reason. Most people can figure it out, right? Same thing with rifles or shotguns. Well, if we all need to be activists on Tuesday, it would be awesome if we could just figure that out, right?
Yeah, and I think maybe that's where my heart's desire is to see people, if you don't want to be a hardcore activist, and where you're organizing rallies or going to rallies or whatever, I get that. I mean, not everybody has the time and the money and the ambition to do stuff like that. But I just, I get out across my state, which is mostly rural, and even in my town, which 25,000 people is not a big town, but for me in Nebraska, it is. This is one of the biggest towns I've ever lived in. But I get out in the rural parts of the state, and it's just like I don't know how to knock the apathy off of people. And I don't mean like physically, like literally knock them around or anything, but how do you, I guess, figuratively grab somebody and shake them and wake them up a little bit to get, shake some of that apathy off of them to where they're willing to care, because there's so many people out there who, and this may be just a byproduct of living in a rural area where guns already are a way of life, and it's never been challenged because that that 22 rifle or the shotgun or whatever that everybody's got, those aren't being persecuted right now. So
right now,
right, exactly, right now, but they don't care. They don't see it. They don't understand the significance of saying right now. And only the young crew that has, served recently. I mean, and by recently, I mean Iraq and Afghanistan, say. So since 9/11, those are the largest number of, the largest reason why the black rifle is the most popular rifle in America, right? Because they got familiar with it when they were active duty or reservists, and then came home and bought one and have an AR-15 of some sort. And I mean, I don't think anybody really argues the fact that that's why that's gotten so popular, because so many people have gotten used to it because of that. And
I think another factor for the AR is that it's so modular, and you've got the rise of I'm going to call it the mill you can put in your garage, or the lathe you can put in your garage and have a second job out of your garage making something. And I like a different grip angle. I like a different swell. I like a different form factor for my knob, right? Those things can be done in people's shops. And I think as soon as you give people their second or third gun, what are we going to do? We're going to fiddle with it. We're not going to, it's no longer a tool anymore. Now we're fiddling with it. So I think that was a big factor in the AR, because at least from my perspective, that all happened at the end of the assault weapons ban. So now you can have them again. You don't have to worry about paying a lot of money for them.
Right.
No problems at all. They literally just got rid of the assault weapons ban. So talk about opening your belt and going, and just doing what you want. Cheap ammo. We're not at war with nobody. Right. And then, because it was the beginning of the global war on terror, where we were definitely not going in with battalion strength, losing ammo. We didn't worry about 5.56 ammo anywhere. So we had plenty of ammo from the Cold War still. End of the thing. Internet, so everybody could share. And then you had people that were getting out, and just machinists who go, oh, you want a different knurl on your knob? I can make that happen in 15 minutes. Oh, you want a different anodization? I can make that happen in 5 minutes. Oh, you want Parkerization, or what is it? Duracoat on there? I can make that happen. So as soon as people can fiddle with their guns, and now I can have 6 top halves of my gun. Well, that's a more impressive gun than a revolver that's just one thing, or a lever. Period.
Yeah, and it's so easy to swap parts out on it. And you can
its popularity is all I'm saying. I mean, I'm sure that because the veterans are only 3%, period, and not every veteran gets a gun, and not every veteran likes guns. So that's all I'm saying is by the time you start slicing up veterans, plus there's people that don't like guns after you get out of the military.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I guess I'm not saying that's like all of it, but that's kind of what sparked it, where people fell in love with it while they were in the service. They come out, and then that gets a little contagious. Well, this guy served in Iraq, and now he's got 5 or 6 ARs, and he's got them all set up differently. Well, that one's really cool. That made me, I saw his, and then I decided maybe I would get one. And then ARs are almost like potato chips, where if you've got the budget, you can't have just one.
Well, and they go up and down in what's the word? They've had scarcity, but then there's plenty. And when they're plentiful, they're nothing. They cost nothing. They cost $35 for this part, $25 for that part. So yeah, you get one finished, and you go, well, I'm pretty good at building them now. I'm basically an expert, and I've got 2, so I'm pretty much got my arsenal going. And I don't have a short one or a red one or a dinky one or a long one or whatever. Fill in the blank, and now you start building that one.
Yeah. So I mean,
you can put $50 this week, $50 next week, $200 this week. Oh, I got a new gun. start again.
But
I think-
overall, I don't see a ton of people who are. I don't see that many people who are over 50 who really have been bitten hard by the AR bug. Okay, so, and I'm not saying that the
In real
FUDs
life,
don't like
I agree.
ARs.
On
or
the internet, I do, but in real life, I totally agree with you.
Right. Well, okay, you're right. Yeah, exactly. In real life, especially, central and western Nebraska, if somebody has an AR, then, and especially if they've got it tricked out, then yeah, they're probably younger than 50. More than likely, they're under 40.
Or they're varmint, and it's like 15 or 17 inches long, or what am I trying to say? 20 inches long, and some crazy caliber with a massive scope on it, right?
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, yep, they're taking it out and hunting with it or whatever, and yeah, plinking coyotes or prairie dogs, what have you, and they may have another one set up for SHTF, and yeah, they might have a few of them. But if the over 50 crowd, they've got the bolt action hunting rifle, they've got the Ruger 1022 or the Remington 22 or what have you, some sort of pump shotgun, and maybe a handgun or two, and it may be more likely it's a rimfire or a revolver. And so where I come from, there's still kind of a distinct line in the sand between the older school people, the newer school people, and the old crew doesn't care. They don't care a bit. It's not that they're against the ARs, but they don't really care if you pass an assault weapons ban, because they're not going to lose anything out of their house, because they don't have anything that meets any of those characteristics of the scary rifles. And so it's so hard to get them to shake off that apathy and realize that if you're not willing to fight for what your kids or your grandkids own right now, and if you're not willing to help join that fight in the courtrooms, in the legislatures, then your grandkids may not be able to own the lever action that you hand them down, 20 years from now.
Just look north, literally.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly right. And I mean, Trudeau just said, was it a week or two ago, that he came out and said, in so many words, in Canada, you don't have the right to use a gun to defend your life. You don't have a right to self-defense with a firearm in Canada. They don't have a document that says they do. And he's right. You don't have that right in Canada or any other country that I'm aware of that is actually enumerated in their founding document that you do have the right to defend yourself with a firearm. There may be one or two, but
Alan wrote the book, but there's an international book that's from maybe 6 years old that went into all the different gun laws of the different countries, and we're not the only one. But I don't. When you clarify it with the Constitution that says,
yeah,
we might be that. But I know we're not the only country that can have guns.
No.
But,
and honestly, I remember reading here, it's been several years ago now, but I remember reading that the Czech Republic, at one point, somebody was working in their legislative body to actually pass something that mirrored our Second Amendment, so that, that their citizens would have the right to keep and bear arms in the Czech Republic, which is
super proud of that. That happened during gun channels. Like, we all got to share in their celebration of that. Yeah.
So that's pretty cool, because I can't think of any other European country that actually wants to protect the rights of its citizens to own those guns. So that's pretty cool.
Well, that's a good point too, because all the other countries that are in that book that I remember were like Middle East or countries that people would never use when they're actually comparing us, because they'll consider them lesser countries and they don't count, even though we would count other countries. They're at war or they've got strife, neighbors.
Yeah, something in the Middle East. I mean, yeah, I can't think of a Middle Eastern country where seeing somebody with a rifle slung over their shoulder is out of the ordinary.
Well, then there's got to be, because we don't know all these countries unless you're really good at this stuff. Like, there's the big countries that we hear about that hate each other. And imagine all those little tiny countries hanging out next door. Like, they got to be, ready for war at all times, but, also tough.
Oh, you mean like Ukraine?
Oh, no, I mean the little ones. Like, I don't even
know.
No,
but that's exactly what happened, though. I mean, Ukraine's a great example of that. If you are one of the smaller nations on the Arabian Peninsula, and another instance where Iraq wants to start invading into Kuwait or some of those other countries, then I mean,
like, I can't hit Pakistan, but I can hit you, or I can't hit Taiwan, but I can hit you. Yeah, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly right. So, But that's just it, though. I mean, whether or not we've gone rounds back and forth, it's never been that I know of confirmed that the Japanese general told the emperor, not to invade the American mainland. But we've all heard the story, whether it's true or not, that he said it. It's still true. It's the reason why we don't get invaded on our mainland. Behind every blade of grass is another rifle barrel.
You know what I like to use is I live 100 miles north of an international border with country that has a restriction, a prohibition on the individual ownership of calibers that are military. So 45 ACP, 9mm, pretty much anything from 9mm up in diameter is banned in Mexico, but you can own little guns. But those little guns are fairly ineffective when the cartels, who are some of the strongest crime states, I don't know what to call them, like entities on the planet, just do what they feel like. So they literally just take over towns. If they want your resources, they want your this, that, the other thing, guess what? They just come in and take them. And, we can talk about what happened a long time ago, but I mean, that's something that's literally happening. You look at the numbers. They don't even like to talk about the numbers of violence in Mexico, but it's crazy. And when we see what happens, police, there's only X amount of police. We don't live in some place where there's enough police to swarm in, or some sort of what might I say, like Archive of National Guards that run in and swarm in. Like, they're not capable of doing that. Even in a hurricane and stuff, we can only bring so many resources to bear. And if we had nothing, then organized crime would just literally take over, as is happening in a massive country next to us.
Yes. Well, I would posit that it's happening in a lot of the massive towns in our country too.
Well, no, but I'm saying the fact that you're saying that the Japanese didn't want to invade because they were afraid of the individual. Well, the cartels are not here. They're 100 miles south of here. They'll just roll into a town and do as they please because they're the cartel. And what are you going to do about it? They don't do that in Nogales, Arizona, ever. Period. There's a line there, and everybody complains about the fence. I mean, if they felt like it, they could do whatever they wanted, really. And they don't come up here and do none of that stuff because they're behind the blade of grass. They know they're not afraid of our police. In other words, they're not afraid of our National Guard swarming down here. They're afraid of the dudes that live on the border. They're afraid of the dudes who would run to the dudes that are running on the border, and that kind of thing. That's that same concept of behind every blade of grass works for organized crime, not just other nation states that are trying to take us over. Because I suspect a lot of people that are anti have no fear of China taking us over. Right? They don't even have that on their radar.
Right. And I think that's just a lot of it. People don't. It's a combination of a lot of those people have never even considered the long range after effects of disarming our population.
Exactly.
And then the ones that have don't think it would ever happen here.
They think that the long range after effect is Star Trek World Peace or something, where we all gather together and sing or have rap battles.
Right. Because they don't understand history or care about history. And if they study history, they won't, because if they do, then they already know that it's going to prove them wrong. But nobody ever did it right before. And if we do it the right way, then that won't happen here. And so then, yes, it'll be just utopia, like Demolition Man before Wesley Snipes got released.
No, I guess this is really late in the show to bring this up. So perhaps a topic for another show, if you wanted to bring it up, is we always assume that the our not our allies, but the people working against us also want to live happily ever after, or want world peace, or want the things that we want, which is living without people bothering us. If they're anarchists, or I don't know if I'm using the I don't want anarchists get mad if I'm using this wrong, but if they are for chaos, if they're a chaosist, whatever that is, right? Mm-hmm. If they literally just want the opposite of harmony, then guess what? You know what I mean? You're not rationalizing with those people. And if there's 6 of them running around causing trouble and throwing the bricks, it's really difficult for us to determine who's who. It's up to others to do that. And anyway, so I don't know. It's like a whole nother conversation. How do you address the people that aren't looking for an alternative different world from us, but the end of the world?
Right. What was the Dark Knight?
The gloom at the end of the show either, but sorry.
No, that's okay. But no, that you do bring up a great point. I mean, that just made me think of the movie The Dark Knight, where Michael Caine's Alfred is telling Christian Bale's Bruce Wayne, some men just want to watch the world burn. And that's true. There are people out there that are like that. I still think they're the vast minority.
I just think that
I
they
think
can
by and large, Americans, the ones that think that there's no reason, the ones that think that we're either wrong or evil, one or the other, for not wanting to give up our firearms, they, by and large, those people think that the world would be a better place if the guns weren't in it and everybody could sit around and sing Kumbaya.
Right.
Now, the agents of chaos may feed into, convincing those people that they're right and we're wrong, or that they're right and we're evil, one or the other, to get what they want because they know better. But by and large, most people are under the misconception that no guns equals no violence.
No, I hear you. I agree with you 100%. And I'm just saying, if that's the case, and it's even if it's only 1%, but if they're the ones instigating stuff, then is there a strategy or a tactic to address them specifically? It's sort of like taking the queen and addressing her instead of the swarm, because then the swarm dissipates. So if the people that do want harmony and peace, guess what? Both belt-fed tripod mounted shooters want peace and harmony, because then we can have all that Cold War ammo and shoot it into a hill and everybody will leave us alone, right? We don't want that to go to war. We want that to shoot tracers at airplanes, not airplanes, but drones. So we want peace and harmony too. So the good news is that if we can get rid of the instigators, perhaps, and I'm not saying we can, I'm just saying it might be an interesting topic to think about addressing our strategies towards those individuals who are the most vocal and instigating, or whatever. I keep using that word, but the people that are poking instead of the people that get poked.
Mm-hmm. No, it's a great thought. Great concept. Really, hadn't much considered that before.
Because somebody that gets instigated to action, you're not going to reason with them. They're like, I don't even know why I'm here. I'm just mad. I mean, I'm thinking of the rally that we had in Arizona. I went to 18,000 mad people. We thought it was because they were against guns. When we started to listen to them and talk to them, they were there to hate Trump. Guns was the topic of the day, but they were 18,000 people that hated Trump so bad they got in their car and drove to Phoenix. Guns was their banners, but most of their banners were like, I hate Trump. And guns is the topic of the day. But if it would have been like, we hate tennis shoes, guess what? Tennis shoes would have been, I hate Trump and tennis shoes.
Yeah, and for the most part, those people are at least pretty easy to flush out, because when you engage them in conversation, it doesn't matter what you say. You're like, well, right now we've got inflation. Yeah, but Trump. Blah, blah.
Yep,
yeah,
exactly.
They're the butt Trumpers.
Well,
there was the never Trumpers, and right now there's the butt Trumpers. No matter what you say, yes, but Trump. Okay, but he hasn't been president now for a couple of years, and why do you guys still care about him? Because we've moved on. Why haven't you?
Well, those very same people, if you say anything negative about Sniffy Joe, like, you can't say that. He's our president.
Yeah.
Have some respect for the office, like you did.
Yeah. I do have respect for the office. I'm not disrespecting the president. I'm just respecting the man.
I have respect for the office, but mine doesn't depend on other people's respect for the office, right? That's like our individual,
right?
Whatever our choice, right? We have no obligation. That's why it's cool here. We don't have to.
That's just it.
And we don't have any. We don't get to say to anybody else, what their opinion.
We can tell people to respect the office, but we can't require them to.
Yeah, all we can do is give other people our opinion, but it's worth as much as our nothing, right? So that's what's cool.
My opinion is worth to you as much as your opinion is to me. And if I choose to assign value to your opinion, then that's my choice. And if you choose to value my opinion, that's your choice. I can't make you value my opinion. So AA's got a great comment too. He's very, very right. Genie's out of the bottle. She ain't going back in the bottle again. And that's just it. We can never unring that bell. Even if we were able to completely eradicate the whatever the number is, 300 million guns that are in this country right now, 6 months from now, there'd be how many millions that somebody cranked out of a garage or whatnot, because the knowledge is there.
China. They send all that fentanyl. They'll just fill them, they'll put them in gun barrels.
Well, yeah. And I mean, there'll be guns flooding in across the border that's so well protected. I mean, anybody with cash is still going to have a gun, just like it is now. It's just like, anybody with cash.
Every criminal that wants one will always have a gun, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. Anybody with enough cash to buy one's going to have one. And if, you can tell people it's illegal to own one, and that seems to work so far for stopping people from speeding or doing drugs or murdering other people. I mean,
and that's all that it's really going to take is that concept to get across. Because right now, people, when we the only time we have the conversations is when they shuck up the ant jars and everybody's upset with each other.
Yeah.
But the people that think about it this way: the DC project. We're all super familiar with these ladies. They started in 2015. They've had 7 years to accomplish what they've accomplished, and they just had all this stuff happen. And again, all those people's friends and stuff. So somebody's upset and somebody has a problem, and then how many degrees of separation are they from somebody who's influenced by the DC project? They can't be 6 people away from the DC project. Our representatives are aware, they can reach out. So that ignorance and that unawareness that's dependent on the paradigms of the past are fading away like toilet paper in the water. It's still there, but it's getting less and less strong, and eventually we won't even see it, and eventually it'll just be history. It'll just be stories.
Nope, you're exactly right. There's some talk out in the chat now about being able to 3D print guns and everything else. Yeah, I mean, the technology's out there. When you do have the First Amendment right to share those files on the internet now. Again, I mean, that's been upheld finally. There's
a couple of states that are banning the files, ownership of the files.
They're trying to, but again, how do you unring that bell? What if I print it out and snail mail it to you across that state line? Who's going to go through my envelope and see what I mailed you?
You could potentially take a bunch of pieces of paper and an X-Acto knife, and with the same concept as a printer, sit there and cut out shapes, right, and glue them together and laminate a thing. I mean, you can take away the concept of a 3-dimensional thing in our space.
Yeah, I mean, let's not forget that there were no 3D printers, there was no CNC when this country won its independence, and there was no manufacturing facility. There was no assembly line for firearms. They were all built from a piece of metal and a piece of wood, and everything was handcrafted.
Did you ever hear the story that the English had guns that, I forget the numbers, but let's say they could carry 8 balls in a pound, so that's the ratio and they could shoot X amount of rounds per minute.
Okay.
In the United States, we had people that came from one country and came from another country. One country's, let's just say, because I can't remember the details, shotgun and long range rifle. So they merge those together, and that's the Kentucky rifle. That's the Pennsylvania rifle, is the merging of a couple of different technologies, so that our guns had a longer range, were more accurate, and we had something like 30 balls per 100 or per pound, where the English were shooting 8 balls per pound.
Instead of an 8 bore, exactly.
Yeah, they're shooting a giant thing occasionally, and poorly, like lobbing it over at us, and sure, if it hit us, it would hurt, but we're winging them. We're like nailing them with better tech. So since the beginning, like you said, we're hobbling those together as craftsmen, as artisans, before assembly line, until Colt invented interchangeable parts. But basically that was already hybrid weapon tech that won our independence. And it was reloading, it was bullets or munitions, and it was the technology of melding 2 different types of long arm. And I'm sure something has to do with, I mean, that's just a story I heard in a quick video one time. Like, I'm sure there's probably a similar story with our handguns.
Well, exactly right. I mean, the handguns were just shortened versions of the rifles in the day. So, and I mean, and again, any chance I get to point this out, I know that I'm preaching to the choir here, but maybe you've never quite had it said this way before. And if you need this to go out into the world with and tell other people about this, but here's what happened. And we're about to celebrate what happened here. Technically on Monday, with the celebrations will happen over this weekend. But, we're about to celebrate winning our independence from a tyrannical government across the pond, right? So the revolutionaries, the Continental troops, they just fought a war with their own guns because there was no official armory. And so, I mean, there were little militias here and there that had weapons caches, but there was no official huge armory out there where, all the Continental troops got issued a rifle out of this stack of rifles or whatever. So everybody that got together brought their own gun because as we just established, there wasn't
and their own cannon.
Well, they could, yes. A lot of the merchants had their own ships that were equipped with cannons because there were pirates at the time, so they had to be well fitted with cannon. But everybody had to have their own gun because the bore wasn't consistent from gun to gun to gun. So you had to specifically mold the balls to your gun, your own self, and then your own powder, your own patches, what have you. And everybody showed up with their own rifle to fight this war. And then the founding fathers, in their incredible foresight, said, just in case we ever need to do this again, whether it's a different country from outside our borders or a tyrannical government regime takes over inside our borders, our people need to be able to do this again. So we need to make sure that nobody ever takes away their firearms. And they specifically didn't say guns because they knew that one day there may be that refined technology to where they would have better technology. You know, they already knew they had better firearm technology than the matchlocks, the wheel locks of the generations prior. They knew that technology would progress. They left that specifically saying guns out of the Constitution because they did not want the American citizens to ever be disarmed just in case this had to happen again. And there wasn't a standing army. There weren't issued rifles, you know, that could be handed out to everybody. And so they wanted it left to where everybody could grab their rifle and show up at a minute's notice, right? Be Minutemen, show up at a minute's notice and fight a battle if need be. Or all of the other things that go along with it that fit under that umbrella. They would still be able to go out and hunt for food. They would still be able to defend themselves against, you know, brigands or anybody else, you know, some of the hostile native peoples or what have you. They didn't want their people to be disarmed. They just proved the case for everybody having their own rifle or rifles when they got done fighting that war. And so they decided back in 1791, hey, we better make sure that nobody ever messes with this. So, and plus they had you know, they had other skirmishes over the years too. So that's exactly what happened. We're about to celebrate the fact that this country was founded by people who refused to be disarmed, and that war popped off because the British tried to come and confiscate weapons. They tried to serve out a red flag bill, is what they tried to do, and tried to confiscate people's guns with their, you know, their powder, their shot, their cannons, whatever they had there at Lexington and Concord. If it hadn't been for the government trying to disarm the population that day, would the war have started then? Would everything have gone the way it did? We have no way of knowing now, but that's what happened.
We would have probably compromised and said maybe a different diameter of bore or a different length of barrel would have been appropriate, and we would have, let's see.
Something they probably would have said, well, you guys can keep your rifles as long as you can't fire more than, you know, one round every 5 minutes.
There you go.
Those high capacity muskets that can be reloaded and fired 3 times within 60 seconds. That's just nobody needs that kind of firepower.
We want to divert, but when you first brought up that comment and it said genie's out of the bottle, I had been thinking, and so my brain went a different way from that the antis this time around, you know, I guess one way to say it is that for Dianne Feinstein, I think it was a long time ago said, Mr. and Miss America, if I could, I would take all your guns or something like that. And we had that one comment since the 90s. And that's the one comment where she slipped and said, like on CBS 60 Minutes or something, Mr. and Miss America, I'll take all your guns. And then they were like, that's just one misstatement. She was upset. That's the only time that, you know, they ever actually publicly said it, at least any credibility. And look at this whole last election cycle for sure. There was no holds barred, but that genie's out of the bottle. There's no slippery slope. Anything about a registry? What are you so concerned about a registry? I'm sorry for the people in California, but you know what I'm saying? That's already happened in Indiana, I think. And it's happened in, was it Michigan? It's happened before, just not on a scale of 500,000 records to the level of intimacy and stuff. And now the state of California, I'm hearing, is going to have to pay for privacy protection. Is that what you're saying, Paul? That, you know, I mean, they're going to be paying a lot of consequences for this that there's no way that people can say, oh no, gun control is not a slippery slope, or no, we don't want all your guns, or like we don't want to just say everybody, we want to confiscate them from everybody, because they've literally done, they've let the genie out of the bottle. There's nothing that they can say,
Yeah.
oh, I just meant this, or we're going to be happy with just this. They keep going around saying, hey, we're happy with this slice, but we want the whole loaf. I mean, they're saying all kinds of dumb things now. And that's going to motivate people and make it more and more difficult for those people in the middle to go, well, before they said they just wanted the mean, ugly guns, and now they want my grandpa's guns and the guns that I know are valuable and my brother wants from his family. You know what I mean? Like hand-me-down guns and stuff. Like, because as soon as anyway, so I think that's one of the things that when you said genie out of the bottle, I'm like, yeah, that they can't take any of that back.
Well, and then here a couple years ago now, everybody's favorite pseudo-Hispanic Robert Francis O'Rourke also echoed the same sentiment, though. You know, when he said, hell yeah, we're coming for your AR-15s, your AK-47s, you know, immediately they all had to do damage control, which that's what killed his campaign. Not that and the fact that he's a moron, but I mean, they had to do something about him too, right? We can't have this guy going around saying the quiet parts out loud, guys. We're not there yet. So, but it seems like in the last 6 months to a year, they've stopped worrying about saying the quiet parts out loud. They're saying it. These new laws that are coming out, I mean, you know, they keep saying stuff like we just want to take all this stuff away, and we want to applaud Justin Trudeau, and we want to applaud the Australian government. We want to applaud all these other countries that are claiming that, you know, they're better off because their people can't defend themselves. And I don't know. It's just, maybe I'm paranoid. Maybe I'm not paranoid enough. I don't know. But whenever somebody asks me, you know, do I really think that, number one, I ever am going to have to fend off an attack? And number two, if I do, that, you know, my AR-15 is going to be enough to do the work, you know, or whatever. Those people, I just want to ask them, well, can you guarantee me that I'm never going to be in a situation where this is the best tool to resolve it? Can you guarantee me that I'm never going to need an AR-15? You asked me what I need one for. Well, can you guarantee that I'll never need it? Can you promise me that? Guarantee it 100% beyond a shadow of a doubt that if I give it up, it's not going to come back to bite me. Because if you can, I'm willing to have the conversation about whether or not I need to justify a need to you to have this. Of course, nobody can do that. Nobody can guarantee that I'm never going to need my firearm, or that I'm never going to need to have a magazine with more than 10 rounds in it. They can't prove it. Is the likelihood very high? Gosh, I hope not, but it's never zero. And that's just it. That's the crux of it.
The argument, that's an argument that you're making to yourself, but you know, that's the other, what I'd like to use is a suggestion that there is no need for any altercation. The kind of what I was alluding to before. We literally have an entire country next to us that has criminal organized crime that are more powerful than state level, local level, and often federal level police. And they've infiltrated those official channels, and they get funded, and they have better firepower, and they're funded by other international players. What's stopping the United States from that? Is it people seriously think it's our police? Like I respect our sheriffs and our police, but I don't think the cartels are that scared of our police. They're certainly not afraid of our jails. They've got more manpower, and if they really wanted people, they could get them from China. We know that. If they really just did need people to help them, they could do it. But what's stopping them? It's the individual nature and the fact that we've got this preventative, am I thinking the right word? Like, but we've got this thing, the blade of grass concept. Well, and it's not that I'm carrying around an AR-15. It's just that they don't know who does and doesn't have it. And the fact that we're free to prevent, it's like it prevents them from even attempting. And I think
that's just it. They maybe can control the cops. Even here, maybe they can control the cops. Maybe they can find enough corrupt people that, high enough up that they can keep the
they could certainly take big
out of the wrong area at the wrong time, right?
They could take big chunks of the country if they wanted it. I mean, you could say they have some downtown areas, but I'll disagree. I mean, there are gangs and stuff, but the cartels don't own chunks of the country like they do in Mexico. And I think that's all I'm saying.
The cartels.
Why do you need an AR-15? Because the AR-15 is the little ant poison that you put out, and you don't get termites. The AR-15, you don't have to go out and combat termites because there's a thing out there that repels them, and that's the AR-15. It's the concept that we are individually free, and there are 19 million AR-15s here. Guess what? We don't have cartels. It's
well, that's what I'm saying, though, is maybe they can control the police. I mean, I don't think so. But even if that, if one were to argue that they could control the police, we all know that there aren't enough police to be everywhere at once. And what you said, where the individuals that they can't control and they can't disarm, yeah, those are the people that just the fact that there's a chance is a deterrent, right? An armed society is a polite society. We all know that. And that's just what you're saying too. I'm just trying to echo it with different words.
When people hear that, they think, oh, like you'd fight me, except that you know that I could fight you. And it's not that there's a whole bunch of people that are confrontational that are just checkmated against being confrontational. Instead, it's a bunch of people that carry around fire extinguishers who aren't arsonists. It's a bunch of people who are prepared because they know that there could be a third party wolf that comes in and does want to just thrash through the sheep or whatever. And so it's not that you got a whole bunch of wolves that are stopped from fighting with each other, which I think the perception is when they hear sometimes, think of somebody who doesn't have an aggressive nature and they hear an armed society, a polite society, they think gun owners are not going to fight each other because they don't know who's going to draw sooner. But really, we're thinking about the gang of outlaws that wants to run into town and just wreak havoc, the biker gang or the outlaw gang or whoever you want to use as your bad guys. In our case, it would be the cartels. But whatever, that's what I'm saying is that's the repellent, right? Like you don't have to worry about it because that's our cartel free zone, is the fact that we sprinkled AR-15s all around.
Exactly right. Even the speaking of just outlaw gangs and stuff, I mean the biker gangs, you think of the TV show Sons of Anarchy, they set that in California. Why? Because the outlaw bikers were the ones with all the guns. The people in that town, everybody in that town knew what was happening. Nobody could do anything about it because number one, the police chief was in their pocket. Number two, the people couldn't do anything about it. The people in California couldn't be as well armed as the biker gangs could that were running illegal guns. So same exact thing. I mean, you get outside into free America, and people have the freedom to own these things, and we don't see huge amounts of violent crime in these areas, except for, again, in the Democrat-run major metropolitan areas, or in the states that are run by Democrats that have successfully hamstrung the citizens across the state.
So I keep thinking of this, since I put something doom and gloom before, I'm gonna put something optimistic out there because I'm way more optimistic than most people usually. So we've got California, we've got a couple of cities there. We got Chicago, which is pretty much the only one in Illinois. We've got St. Louis, I guess. There's a couple of cities you can think of that are the ones that people think of. All it takes is one of those to flip over to a different type of structure, even if it's a Democrat, just somebody who isn't anti-gun and let's go with the old-fashioned paradigm, and they clean up that town by removing the stimulus for violence. Not by removing the implements of violence, but by removing the reasons people are violent to each other. And then that works. And then two smaller towns go, well, let me try that. And then, how fast that could spread. And then this is all over. Because literally, we all know that what you're just saying, all the violence comes from the repetitive, violent people. And once you solve the next generation of them from coming up and being violent, then it's just like, hey, calm down, violent guy, or put you in jail and it's over. Like literally most of the violence goes away with relatively little effort. And I think it just takes one of those cities to switch. And it doesn't have to go Republican, because that might be out of I'm not political enough. I'm sure it's unrealistic, but just a different kind of Democrat, or I like to think an independent comes in there and does something outside the box.
Or it could be like a Democrat mayor, but a city council with enough realists. Enough realists get elected to city council where they put some different city ordinances in place.
G-Webs, you're not really all that far out, because if you just go back, yes, it's a little ways, but if you go back to the 80s, Ronald Reagan won convincingly in New Jersey. It can happen.
Like the place that would normally be anti everything, he had a message, or people were fed up, or what? Do you remember?
That's what happened in the 80s. People just got so tired of.
Well, and before
Maybe I remember that
1980,
subliminally or something. Maybe I'm remembering something and I'm just not, I don't pay attention enough. I was probably a kid, not paying attention back then, but maybe I remember that frustration and it's the pendulum swinging.
And remember that in 2.5 years, it's coming again. It doesn't matter that we're primed for it now. It doesn't matter whether it's the current doofus or the vice doofus that's in the office in 2.5 years. Right. There's going to be a monster swing.
Let's hope you're right. But I was just going to say, prior, in 1980, Reagan ran for president, but prior to that, he already got himself elected governor in California.
He did.
There were enough. Well, and still, I mean, a lot of people don't realize this, but the single largest concentration of Republican voters in any county, I shouldn't say concentration, the largest number of Republicans registered in any county in America is Los Angeles County.
That is correct.
More Republicans in LA County than any other county in America. Now, they're still by far and away outweighed by the Democrats.
Yes.
But there's a ton of Republicans in LA County, more than any other county. So there's a ton of great people, not just the ones that, we know a handful of them here in our circles, whether it's gun or 2A circles or both. But I mean, there's a ton of level-headed, quote unquote, normal Americans living in California right now. They just get drowned out by the relative few that scream the loudest about whatever they want to scream about out there currently, whether it's rainbow stuff or gun stuff or whatever it is, But I mean, yeah, there's still a ton of good, decent people in California, and every idiot that I hear say we ought to just chop that off and let it float off into the ocean. Well, then you've never been to California and talked to the people, because they're not all like that. They're just the ones that make the news.
Plus, I hate to do this to you, man. I got to bail.
Nope, that's okay. Hey, before you go, can I get you? I was going to end on a high note too. Can I get you to expound a little bit back to the West Virginia versus EPA? How does that help us as gun owners secure our rights?
How that helps us is this: what the Supreme Court said today is that the EPA, what they did is they set a limit on carbon emissions, and they set it for the entire nation. And they set it so stringently that there's going to have to be a cutoff of coal for electricity in the very near future. And the Supreme Court said today, look, that's setting those limits and doing those things is something for Congress to do. It's not for an agency of the executive branch to do, which is what the EPA is. I very closely equate that to what the ATF is doing they want to redefine what a gun is. They want to redefine their own definitions of everything so they control what happens with guns.
Yep.
And I think it's just a very, very short step to go back to the Supreme Court and say the ATF has way overstepped their bounds. This is something Congress needs to set, not the ATF. And we've already got precedent. They smacked down the EPA today. They'll smack down ATF tomorrow,
if they get a chance. But still, this has to go to court first and has to be kicked up the ladder to the Supreme Court before they can, right?
That is true. And it's not going to happen fast. It won't be tomorrow, but I think it could happen. And that's why this decision with the EPA is good for us today.
All right. Well, real quick before you go, where can people find more of what you have to say?
If you're looking for video, go to the Polite Society Podcast Facebook or YouTube page, or you can check us out on the OpsLens app and on their Facebook page, where we're all over that. If you're looking for more of what the SAF does, it's saf.org, and they've got their own Facebook page and YouTube channels as well.
And you can sign up for the newsletters and get a couple emails a week on different cases that they've got cooking right now that they're working on. So go check that out. And whether it's SAF or GOA, FPC, any of these organizations, all of these organizations the ones that are actually going out, filing these lawsuits, putting these cases in court so that they have a chance to get sent up to Supreme Court, help those organizations out. Those lawsuits are not free. They're sure not cheap either. So if you can, help them out a little bit, throw a little money towards those lawsuits, because that is the way that we get Supreme Court decisions on these, is they have to get to court first. That's expensive. So whether you pick one, pick all of them, I don't care, but go help get these lawsuits funded so that we get these decisions made, and these laws or these decisions become law. So
I really do got to bail. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Paul. All right, with that, we're going to wrap things up too, and give everybody a chance to just do any kind of final thoughts and whatnot. So let's just do that. We will. You know what? Before we do that, I didn't even mention tonight's sponsor, because I am the sponsor tonight. So tonight we are brought to you by Sandhills Defense. That is my new training company here in Northeast Nebraska. We love to get new shooters into the fold and take somebody who's never fired a handgun or a rifle or limited experience, get them in the classroom, get them out to the range. Concealed carry classes, since Nebraska still requires permission from the state to carry in a concealed fashion. All that stuff. We do all that and more. Go check us out, sandhillsdefense.com. Be your own first responder. There it is. I'll get it on the screen eventually here. Or you can call us or text us, 402-851-0726. So almost forgot to mention my own company there on the sponsorship. So we're going to let everybody just have a chance to sound off here. And like I said, final thoughts, where people can find more of what they're doing. So G, we will give you the chance to go first here. Anything you didn't get a chance to say that you wanted to, and then you can give us the Cliff's Note version if you want to, but all the stuff that you've kind of got going on right now and where people can find it.
I did make notes, as I didn't want to interrupt everybody when they were saying stuff, and I made a couple of notes there, but I don't remember anymore which one, if I hit them all or not. Maybe let me ask you this question if we got a second still. You said something about if you could, you'd work at a gun shop. So let's say you had a gig and it was going to pay all your bills, maybe not everything you'd ever want, but, pay all your bills. Mm-hmm. And it was either going to be at a gun shop, doing gun shop stuff, nothing out of the ordinary, but you're going to get paid well, or same amount of time and same amount of money, but you're at a gun museum. Which job do you take?
If I'm at the gun museum, do I get to put my hands on them, or do I have to leave them behind the
glass?
glass?
Like the curator, run the tours. It's like your gig. There's other people there, but you're the.
At this point in my life, I'm going to pick the gun shop, because I get to put them in other people's hands and help them find not just the gun that I want that I want to sell, but help them find the right one for them in their journey based on their experience or lack thereof. That's what I'm all about as an instructor. That's what I would be all about if I sold guns. I think I'm going to lean towards that for now. However, 20 years from now, ask me again, I may want the museum job by then.
Yeah, right on. I just thought of that as you were saying that as a comparison. I was just wondering if there's a difference.
And I'm going to say the smart me would say museum, but the not smart me would say gun shop, because I get a discount. And then I'd spend all my paycheck at the gun shop.
It's true.
Yeah, but people that hang out at the museum get discounts at shops, I would think. I would give somebody from a museum a discount in my shop.
Yeah, well,
you figure any shop's got an employee discount, period. So there is a way, they got markup and they're willing to take a loss on certain things. So that means they can give that discount to whoever they feel like.
Right.
I doubt they're going to go out of business if they sell a couple of things at that discount occasionally, right?
Yeah.
And if it is, then that's sad, because that shop does need some business, and go buy stuff from them because they need some help.
That's right. That's right. So yeah. Anyway, go ahead with any closing thoughts that you had, and where people can find all the cool stuff you're doing.
Yeah, thanks for the link, or for the invite, and with the content, or with the concept of being pro-gun or Pro-2A. I think it's, again, just understanding that it can be both, and that other people are going to be both, and that you can I was going to say when you something earlier, but that's I'm going to try to end it on is by just being aware and doing your thing. It was a defense dad, I think, who said, that sometimes people get sick of me saying it or something. But that's how I got into advocacy also, because Charles Heller would just be consistently about Second Amendment. If you guys ever listen to Alan Corwin, he's very consistent and precise in his conversations. And back in the day, those were the top or the active activists. So I got to see them quite a bit, and their persistence and their consistent focus on our rights, as in addition to the toys and tools, made me go, wait a minute, why am I just looking at the toys and tools? No one's going to look at the other stuff unless they decide to. So I'm just going to take a look. And then I was like, oh, wow, there's all kinds of stuff that can be done. And then it's just like going into a museum and saying, oh, wow, look at all this awesome stuff. And all it needs to be is put back on the shelves. And then everybody can figure it out easier, because it's, nobody has to do anything except put the stuff back on the shelves. And then people can come in and kind of understand what's going on. And then maybe once I put it on the shelf, somebody else will come in and organize it so that it makes some sense. And then once it's organized, maybe a kid will come in and get inspired and go, hey, there's 4 things here, but I could do the 5th thing. Or these 3 things seem to be an incremental step towards that. Or look, if you put all these 4 aisles together, then we've accomplished something and we didn't even know it. And it just took people having that perspective. So anyway, people, you don't know what you're doing. Your voice is, you're watching different things and you're participating in stuff. You're having a conversation online. You say something at the gun shop or the gun show, you bring that to an online discussion. That's what the Second Amendment is. And that's what our community is those interactions between ourselves.
I think you just described what Ashley Lubinsky does at any museum that she's part of working in. Is she goes and looks at all that stuff and says, hey, if we put this here and put that over there and people walk around here and see that, and we can put all this stuff together, and it's going to bring a lot more people in your door. And they look at that and they go, gosh, you're right. Let's do that.
Yeah, because a lot of times we just get things done. Like, oh, here's the guns we got today. Here's the stuff we got done. Here's the stuff that needed to get done. We accomplished it. What's next? And we look back and it's just a mess. And we can't expect people to follow that as a set of directions, because it's mainly just a debris field.
Well, and up to a certain point, that's kind of some of what you like to do with taking a lot of that info online and organizing that into a place in a way such that people can find it easier, and it's kind of put together too. So that's kind of cool.
If anybody has ever collected anything, so let's say you go to a gun show and you're like, wow, these things are cheap. And then you move on, and next time you go to a gun show, you're like, wow, I can't believe how cheap these things are, but this one's different than that other one was. And then the 3rd time or 5th time you go to a gun show, you're like, I've got $40 and I really wanted to buy this, but these things are so cheap and I could get 3 of them. And I know at the next gun show, that guy's going to have the round one. So I'm going to just buy these 3. Before you know it, you got 30 of them. You go online, you find out that there's a collector's group of this stuff, right? So who hasn't done that with revolvers or ammo or pouches or decoys or calls or, right? Like, you name it, guitar picks. So that's what happened to me with 2A. I was like, wow, look at all this stuff that's just laying around. All you got to do is pick it up and put it on the shelf. So yeah, it's been more fun to collect than anything, because it doesn't cost nothing really. You just got to go discover it.
Right. But yeah, I'm happy that there's a place that people can go, and there's and with all the stuff that you've kind of mentioned, between what you've said on Patreon and some of the stuff that you've just told me too, overall, just when you get done some of the projects that you're working on doing, I mean, it's going to be a great resource just to steer new people to, whether somebody's like, hey, what can I do? I'd like to get in the fight, but what can I do? Well, where do you live? Oh, I'm in, Oregon. Cool. Here's the link to all the stuff that's close to you, or, you might like these helpful links, and you're going to have that resource kind of streamlined there for people to go find their local groups or what have you. So
here's what I've been using. Let me know if this works. Everybody's out there doing their thing. People, projects, organizations, right? Things that are people are doing this. It's like kind of like a mall. It's the 2A mall. Everybody's got their little storefronts. There's a food court. Everybody's having a good time. But what I want to do is Terminator 2. Terminator's walking through those aisles behind the mall, behind the stores in the mall, taking the shotgun out of the roses. Everybody knows what I'm talking about,
right?
I want to make those hallways for 2A, so that we can get things done behind the scenes, and facilitate all those stores. Oh, somebody needs a graphic designer. Oh, somebody needs a logo done. Oh, somebody needs a lawyer. Oh, somebody needs 300 signatures. Oh, somebody needs people to show up at a rally.
Right.
And then there's a lot of people out there that want to help. And like you said, what can I do? Well, heck, what are you interested in? Here's a list of things. Here's what people have done. Do you want to be creative, or do you want to, try doing what other people have done for a while? It's up to you. Somebody said it at one of the gun rights policies, and I think it's awesome. You don't micromanage volunteers. You point at a hill and say, let's go over there. And if people get there, you get there and you go, how'd you get here? What route did you take? What did you use to get here? How come you got here so fast? Oh, you got here so long because you picked up other people along the way. I never even thought of that. Right. And then you look at each other and go, let's go to that next hill.
That's ultimately what GRPC is.
Yes.
Is, hey, we all got to this hill, so this is how we got here. And then the next person comes up and says, well, this is how me and my gang got here.
Yep.
That's exactly what it is. That's a great analogy. I like that. All right. So where can people find all this stuff? Where can people find what you're doing?
All over. Appreciate it. Thanks for reach out. You'll find us.
Cool. All righty. Thanks for being here. Appreciate your contributions to the discussion. And of course, like I said, contributions to a lot of other discussions that have happened over the years that I've been privileged to be a part of. So Defense Dad, we will move over to you. Anything that you didn't get a chance to say that you were waiting to, and where can people find what you're doing?
No, I think we had a good discussion tonight. As far as me, I've been kind of on hiatus for a little over a month, so I'll get back to making content after the 4th.
Did you say you've been high for a little over a month now? Is that what you said?
I said hiatus.
Oh, hi.
There you go.
Because I got high. Wait, no, never mind. Thank you very much for joining in too, and for doing the things that you do. And I wasn't trying to call you out when I said you do more gun stuff than 2A stuff, but yeah, I meant online, and I know that's why you do, is because you kind of geared your channel towards, hey, I'm a dad, and I figured out here not that long ago that I need to protect my daughter because some stuff went down not too far from your house. Yep. And so here's my journey. And as I learn, I'm going to share stuff. And if I fail, I'm going to talk to you guys about that. And if I succeed, I'm going to talk to you guys about what worked. And I like the fact that you're doing that kind of stuff. That's super important because there's not a lot of that out there. Everybody, we always say fake it till you make it. And everybody wants to make these videos and make them look so polished and professional. And sometimes we poo-poo the guys that, it's not polished and professional, but we need those videos. We need the lead by example of turn on the camera, make the video, put it up there, see what happens. Yep. And if you want to make a better one next time, make a better one next time. But don't walk all over this other video just because it was earlier in your path. It's leave that there. Let other people see that stuff too. And it's kind of cool just to look back over some channels' early stuff versus their later stuff and just see how they've grown, adapted, evolved, all that kind of stuff too. And being able just to let people in and make them feel like a part of the journey, that they were along for the ride with you instead of just seeing the end product. I really like that. That's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, I go back to some of my original videos. I'm like, who watches these?
Same. You know what I like more than anything, and not more than anything, I do like a lot though, is like going back through some of my early videos of doing this stuff and just seeing how the evolution of the mess has happened over the years, the things that we've added over the years, and changing, putting different stickers up and stuff, and just all this stuff going on back here. My autographed copy of Recoil with Chris Cheng on it, and the photo I've got for proof that he really signed it, all that good stuff. Like,
sure,
just I've gained a lot of cool stuff and had the privilege to meet a lot of cool people along the way, and I try to put some stuff up that that kind of reflects a lot of those people over the years too. So yeah, I guess I'm going to end with this too. Kids, you might be just a gun person. You might be just a 2A person. You might be both like me. And that's totally cool. If you're a gun person, then keep doing gun stuff and make gun stuff normal. If you're a 2A person, keep doing 2A stuff and make 2A stuff normal. If you're both, then keep doing both. And if you've got a foot in both circles, that means that 2A people that the gun people don't know. And gun people that the 2A people don't know. And if you can put people together and grow everybody's circle, then you are one of the lucky ones that gets to help more people meet more people. And you can be, you can introduce and make those introductions. And that's been kind of fun too, just seeing people that have met other people through some of the stuff that I've worked on. And it's been a lot of fun. Yeah, sometimes this is hard work, and yeah, sometimes I'll come home and kind of dread having to put the energy out to be charismatic and be in here and do all this kind of stuff. But you guys make it worth it. As soon as we go live and those comments start coming in and I'm hanging out with my friends online, like all that stuff just melts away, and I'm having fun and I'm talking to you guys, trying to make this a fun discussion, a worthwhile discussion week in and week out. Even though it doesn't always stick to the topic at hand, that's okay. And like I said, if you guys like what we do, help us grow it, help us share it. You don't have to throw money at us. You can send money on Patreon or whatever, but that's not what it's about. I just want this thing to grow. I want to stop saying this is the best show that no one's watching, and I want to make it the best show that everybody's watching. But that can't happen without all of you. So help us share it. Tell all your friends, invite them to come watch with you. You guys can make fun of me in the comments or whatever, make fun of each other in the comments, all that fun stuff. But it's still better than watching a TV show or listening to a radio program where it's not interactive and you just have to sit back and watch or listen or whatever. And you can scream all you want, but Tucker Carlson can't hear you, and neither can Don Lemon, and neither one of them cares what you have to say anyway. I care what you have to say. Plus, I get to see it when it comes through the comments, and if I really want to, I'll put it up on the screen. So anyway, we will end it with that. Good night, everybody. On behalf of Paul and G-Webs and Defense Dad and hold on, we got the list, and my beautiful bride, Sandhill Sweetheart. All right, so out there on the YouTube side, we had Rich, Defense Dad, G-Webs, Polite Society Podcast, G23, Kevin Sona, The Gun Foodie, Scott79, Blitz, PNW Woods, Krabby Turtle, Armament and Axes, Carolina EDC Reviews, Mr. Knives, Leo Red, and on Facebook, I did see Patrick Collins was there, although he was out here as The Gun Foodie as well. So on behalf of all of us, thank you for making this what it is. Thank you to all of our sponsors, including Sandhills Defense, for being able to do this on multiple platforms all at the same time. We appreciate all that. We love you guys. God bless you guys. We'll see you next week, 8 o'clock Central Time, Thursday night, right here on this YouTube channel or this Facebook page. But in the meantime, it's time to go. You guys got to get out of here. Get off my lawn.